That is not what went on here, by and large, with Tucker. That wasn't an interview. You're right. That was a platforming. That was an attempt to pasteurize him. That was an attempt to whitewash and mainstream him. And I just think we have to accept that.
Let's just jump into it. I mean, let me start here, and you can respond. And we can discuss Israel. We can discuss, blah, 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 blah. Here is the bright red line. Tucker platformed Nick Fuentes, who is one of the very rare actual racist hate mongers, actual Jew-hating anti-Semite, animated by satanic forces. Nobody could be saying what Nick Fuentes has been saying over the years without being in league with the devil. Now, it's my prayer as a Christian, my hope, that he would repent. But right now, for Tucker to have done that is despicable, shocking, absolutely shocking. I cannot imagine why Tucker would have done something like that. I love Tucker. So I cannot imagine how he could have done something this divisive and destructive to the nation, to the MAGA movement. So I'll leave it there. What do you think?
Well, let me address that first, and then I think we should take a step back and make sure that our audiences understand why we're what the ecosystem we're operating in really is, and the tensions that are at play. But just for the very specific situation you mentioned, I like the fact that you used the term, Eric, platforming. In the 1950s, at the advent of the television era, Mike Wallace did a lot of great black and white interviews. You can go watch a lot of those on YouTube with a lot of people that were considered controversial, that could not get past the quote unquote gatekeepers in the newspaper, radio industries, and gain audiences. But he did real interviews. You really got to see what some of these people, and some of them were unfairly maligned, and some of them, like the great interview he did with Margaret Sanger, deserved all of the blowback they got. But that came out in the interview, in that he challenged their belief systems and worldviews. That is not what went on here, by and large, with Tucker. That wasn't an interview. You're right. That was a platforming. That was an attempt to pasteurize him. That was an attempt to whitewash and mainstream him. And I just think we have to accept that. For those of us that admire and love Tucker, I know I'm not a fan of saying that. And Tucker's done kindness to me in my career, and I'll address that here in a second. But that's what went on. And I think that to me, when you have less in-person empathy for Ted Cruz than you do Nick Fuentes, there's just really no moral justification for that in any civic context whatsoever. And I think,
go ahead. When you say that, right, this is where I get utterly baffled, okay? Because, listen, I was kind of upset when Charlie went on Gavin Newsom's podcast. I thought, why are you giving oxygen to this, really deceptive, self-serving swine? But Charlie challenged him. Charlie represent, it was, I think, positive. Same thing with when Dinesh D'Souza debated Nick Fuentes. He didn't say, let's hear what you have to say. He pushed him. Now, even that to me is on the line. But what Tucker did, I find it genuinely inexplicable. Do you have any idea how he could do something like this? And because think about it, Tucker is right now, he has put TPUSA in such a bad spot. He put the Heritage Foundation. Kevin Roberts is a great guy. He has put them in a horrible spot. He ought to publicly either distance himself from what he just did or say, I'm leaving Heritage and I'm not going to speak at TPUSA. That would be the generous thing for him to do, the right thing for him to do. So the fact that he is letting everybody twist in the wind, I am absolutely baffled. I don't understand it.
One thing I learned early in my career is I suck at the psychoanalysis business, and my wife is a Liberty grad Christian counselor, and I leave that to her. Right? What I am good at, what the Lord did gift me at, is deducing situations and surmising strategically how we got here and where to go from here. And one thing I can say to your audience is that in the last month of his life, Charlie asked me to join him in a private one-on-one Signal chat. And this chat was specifically for him and I to put our combined heads and IQs together on how to devise and deploy a strategy to make sure that the likes of Nick Fuentes, Groypers, and any future, imitators and impersonators would never gain a legitimate foothold in our movement whatsoever. Not only did Charlie think that just morally God would never bless a movement that mainstream this, but he also just thought in practicum, very practically, it would dissolve our coalition, it would fracture it and schism it, and we can't afford that. And you saw some of the mustard seeds of what Charlie feared. You saw play out here over the last 6 days. And I think before we go further, let me do this. I am confident in this. There are 4 tensions at play that I think will help your audience understand why some people have reacted to this the way they have, haven't reacted to this the way they have, and really what is at stake based on what is happening here. Number one is a very political, practical calculation. Right now, what you saw is people with more traditional conservative views, our conservative Jewish friends, all rightly came out and condemned this interview, and that's what Charlie feared, that this would fracture the coalition that way. But I need to also warn about this. If we go after, if you try to cancel Tucker at this juncture, I absolutely believe it risks fracturing our coalition the other way. And let me explain why. We have received people like, Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Tim Pool. And these are people, Tim Pool started out as an operation, one of those, what was it? I can't even remember. During the Tea Party years, Wall Street or whatever that was, leftists, right? Occupy Wall Street. Thank you. There's a lot of people that have grown the ranks of our voter rolls and movement that we would not have won this last election without, that come from the left. That means they also have some of the left's baggage and issues where Israel is concerned, and they bring that with them. Donald Trump would not be president today without the support of those people to do things like join Israel in blowing up and obliterating Iran's nuclear arsenal. And so I'm not drawing a moral calculation, Eric, but there is a political calculation. Morally, I'm on the side of that's a red line. But politically, to instantly say, well, we're going to cancel people who do this, understand you now risk fracturing our coalition in the opposite direction.
Do what? There's nothing wrong with criticizing Israel. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Giving a platform to an evil, genuine hate monger like Nick.
I agree.
That the fact that
I agree. What Tucker did there is reprehensible, and he put that mess in all of our laps. We all now have to talk about this because of what he did. I agree.
But he hasn't.
But that brings me
about it. He clearly up to this point doesn't care enough to say, to distance himself. To say, in other words, the least he could do is say, I won't speak at TPUSA, or I'll take my name off the heritage thing, or he could admit that what he did was incredibly damaging to the country. So that's why I don't understand why he would do such a thing.
I mean, he's the one that exposed these fault lines. Absolutely. If you're one of those people that's concerned that we didn't talk about Arctic frost last week, well, go to Tucker. He could have talked about Arctic frost. He chose to talk to Nick Fuentes instead.